KLBC.org. You listen to the world famous Luc and Cammie show.
You better claim it.
714.
You literally turned off my microphone, and I don't appreciate
that.
There you
Thank
go.
you very
My bad.
much. I appreciate that.
We try to keep her as quiet as possible.
Of course.
It's a talker.
So
714. We got things going on in Long Beach.
Yeah.
Right now we're in a heat stroke. Heat
situation.
Heat situation.
We're on
Very
fire.
hot outside. 101 recorded today in Long Beach.
That's insane.
Very hot.
October. What is
I tried
October
to stay.
doing?
I tried to stay in my room as much as possible today until it just, but I had to get out of there.
Of course.
All right, so today we got a very special
A VIP guest.
VIP,
I like it. VIP. I like it.
VIP personnel.
Yeah.
Put your hands together for Miss Jeannine Pearce.
Yes, council person.
Wait.
Now we got to be right.
Yeah,
Council person.
Council person.
Yes.
That works.
Jeannine
Of the second
Pearce.
district. Yes.
Second district.
Yes.
What's the second district?
Okay.
It is 80% of our port. It's our downtown, and over to Redondo and 10th. That is the district of people I represent.
Okay. Yes.
And Jeannine represents
Let me see, have I?
50,000 people in your district, roughly 50,000 people that she has to answer to on a daily
I have to
basis.
answer to those folks.
You have
It's a lot of bosses.
That's a lot of work.
It is, but I love it. So
That's a lot of work.
People's work.
I'm fascinated by those who sign up to be a part of the city council, or any politics at all, because there's a lot going on. Because you have not only do you have to answer to so many people, but there's not a lot of money in politics either.
There's not.
You don't sign up
There's
to
not.
become, you can pay a few bills.
I pay a little bit.
Yeah.
My staff makes 3 times what I make.
Yeah, right.
It's
right.
a labor of love.
Mhm,
That's why we call it civil servants.
Right.
Yeah.
And what made you want to run for the city of Long Beach?
I did.
Yeah, and you did.
Full effect, yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up with a single mom and grew up in Pasadena, Texas. Very different from Pasadena, California, right outside of H-Town.
Mm-hmm.
And so essentially the single mom struggling every day, and no matter what our struggles were, she always taught me to stand up for what was right and
Right.
to fight for people that voices weren't at the table.
Right.
Or they tried to get a seat at the table and
Sure.
it didn't matter. And so when my mom passed away in 2009, I reflected a lot on the lessons that I learned from her. And when the seat became available, I didn't see anybody that was running that really represented my ethics or my morals. And it was a crazy idea to run for office. And I was the underdog, because I was the scrappy one that was like the rebel rouser. I wasn't supposed to win.
Mm-hmm.
But with people power, I had more volunteers that volunteered their free time, brought their kids in, knocked on doors with me.
Mm-hmm.
We turned around a discussion that was really important. So I'm glad I took the leap, and I did it only because I was surrounded by a lot of people.
Yeah, because it's interesting. Like, I was involved with a lot of politics in L.A. at the time that you were running. I said I just didn't want to be a part of like the Long Beach scene for whatever reason. To me, it was a lot going on over the years, and I just said, I kind of want to step back from that. And I did meet one of your opponents, Joanne Garnica, and I thought, when I met her, I thought she's nice, she's kind, she's genuine, she's a mom to these adorable,
mother,
to twins. So I'm thinking
adorable.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know much about you until just this year with this VIP fight. And I mean, after the runoff and everything, and I said, I don't know, who she is or what, it doesn't affect me and directly because I'm a citizen actually of an 8th district. But
citywide.
Yeah, but it's, definitely coming from a place of probably just sheer ignorance, not understanding how important all of your roles are. And even with me being aware of everything that's going on in the city now, I understand that there are those that don't want to have anything to do with it.
You feel disenfranchised.
Right.
What is my local government going to do for me?
Right. Absolutely.
So it's a hard... before I got involved and decided to run for office, I helped start something called Long Beach Rising, which basically said, take out the real politics, take out an agenda, and the only agenda we have is making sure that the people's voice is heard.
Right.
And we started a training program, and we had every race, every class, ages from 14 to 70, and we just trained folks on how to go and talk to people. How to say, you know what? Government's not going to care if you don't speak up, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
That's the crooked system. And that's happened now for 6 years. And that's, it's not a policy. It's not one reason why I'm running. It's just making sure that somebody's there that's willing to listen to everybody. And, of course, people feel disenfranchised. I mean, our voter turnout in Long Beach
was dismal.
10% typically. And luckily I had Bernie running in my race. And so come June, we had over 36% or 34% turnout, which was unheard of. And we applauded that.
Yeah,
and that's not the majority voting. And that's the thing, is the working class folks that are working 2 and 3 jobs, that have kids, and voting is the last thing on the agenda. You're knocking on doors and they're saying, I got to cook dinner.
Right. Yeah. And you're hitting them up at dinner time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as part of the 2nd District, a lot of it is, it is the ports, and there's not residents necessarily or per se. But your issues, a lot of issues are with port issues, correct? And so, what's new with the port? And because I mean, when I first met Luc, I was really young, and he worked at the port, and then he worked up until they closed, and it was such a change. And so now with the ports, what is really the future of the ports?
Look, our port really, when you look at worldwide what ports are doing to innovate, our port is one of the leaders. It is where the highest pollutants have come from historically. Right now we're in the middle of voting for a community action plan. And so I probably have meetings once a week, sometimes more, where we're engaging residents and the port and saying, what can we do to make sure that we're cleaning this up, that we're getting to zero admissions as soon as we can. I have a 5-year-old daughter, and she had infant asthma. And so you're talking about a 1-year-old that's got to sit there with 10 minutes with a mask on.
Right.
That happens in port cities more than anywhere else. So while we've done better, we are still not as good as we could be.
Right.
And so I'm trying to work with the port on innovation funds and saying, instead of spending dollars, it's great that we do community grants, but we need to be able to really invest in trying to get to zero admissions as fast as possible.
Right, exactly.
And so that's coming up, and we've had a community meeting with, I think, 80 people that came out just in the 2nd District to talk about, everything from the 710 to Middle Harbor. We're doing a fantastic job. We could still do better.
Right, absolutely. Well, I know that there has been, a lot of votes lately with regards to planning for parking and space. And you've been on the forefront of that, of what the fight is. And what I've been seeing lately, too, is that there's some really difficult conversations that the citizens of Long Beach are having right now that are bordering in a scary place.
Yeah.
And my concern, I used to live in Cal Heights, and I moved to Bixby Knolls. I went running, and there was a reason for that.
Yeah.
I have 2 teenage sons, and I have a little 4-year-old now, and
Chicky.
her cheeky.
There's so much fun.
And so our concern is we want our kids to be safe.
Yeah.
We want, and then these arguments that people are having is starting to I'm feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I understand why you're uncomfortable, and it breaks my heart that that we're still at a place where residents can have a dialogue that makes people feel like you probably are feeling.
Yeah.
And I think the hardest part, number one, is not talking about it around the edges. Let's
Right.
be real.
Right, let's be real.
So we have land use element, which is something that the city is opting to do to make sure that we haven't met our housing needs.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be able to get to scale. We need to be able to build more housing, more affordable housing, and balance that with different neighborhood needs. So I have some historic districts in my neighborhood. The east side, you don't necessarily have as many historic neighborhoods. But what the dynamic that we're seeing is these land use element meetings. We've had 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
We've got one more coming up.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of we have a lot of white folks that come out and say we don't want to have density. Density means more crime.
Right.
And you have 300, 400 people in a room talking to one of the smartest women that we have at City Hall, Linda Tatum, who happens to be African American, sitting at the front of the room, and
Right.
having these people say more density equals more crime and get this stuff out of here.
Right.
And it is probably while the city has come such a long way in 10 years, and we look at the city and how much we've developed and how much we talk about issues of poverty and equity, we're doing it like never before.
Right.
10 years ago, you wouldn't have had an office of equity. You just wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
We have those issues now. But you also have this land use element that has been facilitated maybe not in the best way.
Right.
So I think the intent of the land use element is the right intent on the city. I think we should have had a better facilitator, and getting people to move from a place of fear to a place of what are we doing together is
Yeah.
what bureaucracies aren't good at.
Right.
Bureaucracies
Exactly.
aren't great at facilitating dialogue together.
Yeah.
And when I think about my role as a council member, I think about facilitating dialogue together. And that's why I'm hosting 4, 5 meet and greets just myself. Let's come talk about the land use element. Let's unpack all the fears and talk about what it really means and what's best for our neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And it might not be what city staff proposes, but we can have a discussion about how do we move past that.
Yeah, because I'm going to give you a straight up question. I mean, not question, but just a statement. What the people are talking about, and what we're talking about specifically, is that there's a lot of people in this city, a lot of white people in this city that are fearful of people of color.
Yeah.
Straight up. And this argument is based off of fear, and it shouldn't have come into this argument about density.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. It's leaving a scar on our city.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm sitting, I've been here since I was 5 years old. And then when I was 5, when I was 5, it was all new to me because we came from LA. And there was always a worry, because I lived downtown, that there's going to be racist people in your life. And I went to schools that were out of my area, and oftentimes I was put in situations where I was the only one in school. Yeah. And I finally felt in Long Beach in the last 5 years, maybe 10, I'll give it a 10, that I feel like finally the city is open and welcome to people of all walks of life. And then finally felt free enough to say my kids are safe. Yeah. And all of those issues came out because of density. So,
well, honestly, I mean, we mentioned before the interview Claudia's Law, which your listeners might not know, but it was a policy focused on women and sexual assault in the hotel industry.
Right.
And I asked myself, because the day after we lost that vote, where women sat there and talked about being almost raped, being assaulted, shared stories of women being tied up with vacuum cleaner cords in a hotel in our city, to have people vote against it, the only thing I could wrap around my head was that our president has given people the okay to say that people don't deserve justice. Yeah. And that election itself has a different tone for us now. And that, I mean, I felt like Trump won all over again the week leading that vote. Yeah,
and I feel, I'm really open to so many different arguments, and I just felt really confused about, I feel confused about the, women going and being in those situations in hotels, and there needs to be definitely protections for them. But I felt confusion as to how this became an issue for women when it should be an issue about hotels being more protective. I just don't think that those two arguments aligned to me.
I think because you have over 80% of housekeepers are women. And so when you look at industries, whether it's, where you're making clothes, or you're looking at a hotel industry, or janitors, and you look at what's the majority of the population that does that job,
Right.
and how are they oppressed in that job. It could be women, it could be class, it could be age.
Right.
But having a 80% population of women that are trying to come out and speak up to management, and your management's mainly men that say, shake it off, you can be all right. It's both about hotels having dignity, treating their workers with dignity and respect, but it's about that agreement in between those that are oppressed and those that oppress them. And I firmly believe that a lot of managers and people that work in the hotels are good people.
Right.
And the same thing with the city. I believe
Right.
our council members, all of our council members, love and adore their family. They all want Long Beach to be the best it can be. Same
Right.
thing with city staff. But structures oppress people. And
Yeah.
if we don't talk about it, then we let it be. And we don't challenge, how do we put in a process
Right.
that makes sure that everybody's voice is heard, that makes sure that everybody has a seat at the table.
Yeah.
And that's some of the hardest stuff to unpack with equity. And often people feel like, well, that's not government's job. You pass land use policy, maybe you pass a minimum wage policy, you make sure, our streets are cleaned and our potholes are filled, but that's it.
Right.
But I firmly believe that it's my ethical duty to unpack those
And so
discussions.
the hotels were really just not protecting their workers. Isn't that like a federal issue more so than on a city level?
So there are state policies and there are federal policies that protect our workers.
Right.
The challenge is that systems that are in place are not set up for somebody to go through and remedy an issue, right? It might take them a year. It might
Right.
take them 3 years
Right.
to have their case heard
Okay.
and have a decision made. And that's not okay with me in my city. When I look at a hotel industry that has $1 billion worth of subsidies, over
Right.
$1 billion in 10 years worth of subsidies,
Right.
and you're going to employ 90% Long Beach people, I want to make sure that my residents are protected. And so I feel that it is my duty as local government to make sure that we're creating the best industry.
Understood.
So the Hyatt's on city land, the Renaissance received tax subsidies, same thing with the Westin. In return, having a panic button that says it goes straight to a security guard, that's not too much to ask
Yeah.
for $1 million industries.
Yeah. So Luke being one that's like, I don't know about city politics as much as these two ladies. I can talk about this all day. But one thing that's close to Luke's heart, especially because he's been a resident of 6th District most of his life. When I spoke in front of the city council on behalf of V.I.P. Records, that was when you became noticed for me. That day, I said, okay, this woman is speaking up in an authoritative manner. No, V.I.P. is important to the city. V.I.P. is who we are as a city, and we need to make sure that all of the projects that we put forth, they move forward.
Yeah.
And the fight that we have now is that V.I.P. has a sign still up.
Yeah.
The 7-Eleven sign has gone up.
I saw the picture of 7-Eleven with the VIP in the background, and it just gave me chills. It was
It was very polarizing, and it was scary because it basically served as a symbol of what is happening across the country. And what my concern is that VIP wants to they actually put in a proposal for a plan to purchase land, city space.
Yeah.
And
For a
they haven't
museum,
heard.
right?
Huh?
They wanted to do part of the museum, right?
They wanted to do part of the museum, and it's an RDA property, and they're not getting anybody words back. No one's talking to them. No one's saying anything. It's been like shut down at the door.
Wow.
And I'm like, what happened from the time that everybody's kumbaya, pictures taken? We have, D. Andrews taking pictures. We got the mayor taking pictures.
Yeah.
And everybody's all happy, kumbaya. Yes, you get your $80,000. Goodbye. See you later.
Yeah.
And that was the end of it.
You haven't talked to anybody since then?
it's been very
crickets.
crooked. That's the word I can say.
Yeah.
And it's been shut down and it's been quiet.
The city structure, you know, I don't want to speak in specifics and get into
Sure.
a non-radio conversation.
Yeah,
but
of
I
course.
do want to talk about the structures and the challenges and where you guys can put most of your energy. Mm-hmm. So you've got city council, and you've got a mayor,
Right.
and you've got city staff. Mm-hmm. And all three of those sometimes have different interests and different goals.
Sure.
And that is the biggest challenge. And I think that's what we saw with VIP leading up.
Right.
And you guys did a lot of organizing to be able to get Dee Andrews to step up and do the right thing, and the mayor to do the right thing as well. But to me, I think one of the reasons why I spoke so clearly that day is because VIP Records is not a 6th district issue. It's not a Long Beach issue. It's not even a U.S. issue. You know, you talk about the culture and breaking open the realities of American life. For a large population,
Right.
it's a world issue for us. And so I think that organizing is where I come from, and when the structure that oppresses or decides to leave our voice out decides not to listen, it's unfortunately up to the people to continue to organize and build that base and get more support, which is what you guys did before.
Right.
My worry is that if it's an RDA property, that you guys move as fast as possible and, you know, immediately after this, that we have some conversations so that
Sure.
you can make sure that that property doesn't, you know, go out the gate without you guys being a fair.
Yeah.
And-
a fair entity. I mean, I think it's been blackballed.
Yeah.
And that's true. That's the truest as I can say it. I mean, you know, I can sit here all day and name names and start, you know, swinging the bat, but
you
be
gotta have a
perfectly honest.
champion,
But
know?
you have to have a champion, and our champion's not coming from our district.
Yeah. I'm really sorry to hear that. You know,
Yeah.
and sometimes, you know, we can make excuses or reasons why people aren't champions. Sometimes it doesn't resonate, and sometimes it's fear. You know, when I look at other cities that have led on equity issues, you know, places in Middle America, Seattle, places like that, it's hard because sometimes you have people of color, whether it's African Americans or Native Americans, that have a vision for where they need to go, and because the city staff might not represent that population, it takes somebody like them to get the foot in the door.
Right.
And I hate saying that. I really don't enjoy saying that.
Right.
But when you look at the groups that have done the national work on equity, that's what they come back and say, is when you have a diverse coalition that's all leading.
Yeah.
You know, and for city staff and for the council member of the district, it just might not be their issue. You know, and I'm, as I said that day, whatever you guys need from me, because VIP Records, you know, when I grew up, I was 12 the first time I listened
This
to
is the
some-
story that
to
you
some
told
gangster
at the
rap,
council.
you know?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I was 12, and my mom played it for me, and it resonated with me because I grew up, you know, in the hood in Pasadena. I was one of the very few white girls. And, you know, when I moved to Irvine, it was the most uncomfortable place for me in the world. Because I was like, I don't belong here. Oh, wait, they look like me. It was really weird. You know? And so that's why Long Beach has become my home, because it's diverse, you know? And I feel awkward in places that aren't diverse.
Yeah.
But it's important for me that just like, you know, in the 80s and the 90s, that we don't look at VIP Records as something that brings people that people aren't comfortable with.
Yeah.
But that we embrace all that it is,
Yeah.
and that it's an avenue to get people to talk about their stories and to share. And when we can share our stories, whether it's through song or poetry or anything like that, that's when we grow as a community. And that's why VIP Records is so important to me.
Yeah.
Because if we ignore a cultural, you know, a population in our community, then we get things like what's happening right now, where we say, if I don't embrace it, then we give other people in our community the okay to not embrace it too.
Right.
You know, and I think that's why leadership is so important, to be able to say, I accept, and I want to see you guys thrive, and I would love to see, you know, a music museum.
Absolutely.
With VIP at the heart of that.
You see this, Luke? This is what I'm talking about. This one right here. This one right here.
You know, but it takes
It's
work.
just
you know?
no.
It takes work.
Jeannine, let me tell you. She said, "I'm Jeannine." Oh wait, Jeannine. She has been a freaking champion for VIP, and we do appreciate you,
Thank you.
because we really do love VIP. And I mean, everything that you've said and everything that you do, and I thank you for like extending your hand, and hopefully, you know, having open dialogue is the only way we're going to get to the place that we need to get, so that we can get these legacy projects done.
Yeah.
And so if anyone has anything to say or call me or whatever, they Cammie at lucandcammieshow.com, and they can email me and ask me any question they would like to ask me, because I put it out there. But also, like, I mean, you came here very open, very, like, you haven't been closed door with me ever once. You've always been open with me, and that's why I respect you in that sense, because when I did say, hey, I want to interview you, there was no questions asked. It was just absolutely yes. And so, like, everyone in the city has been wanting to interview you, and everybody's been wanting to talk to you about all the issues and everything else, and they have bombarded us with every question in the book, from the craziest TMZ articles I can think of, and you've gone through this. And so we don't know what's going on, but we just want to know what happened June 3rd. We want to know.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people want to know, and it is a night that I don't want to relive. It's a night that
I
don't
wouldn't
like
imagine
retelling the
anybody
story.
would.
You know, and I think, as I mentioned to you before, there's still, you know, there's still some ongoing things that have to fall into
Of
place
course.
before I can
I
talk
understand
about
that.
any of the details. And I really don't want to talk about the details.
You're right.
You know, I've made some mistakes in my tenure, and I will say that being an elected has a lot of pressure, and definitely, you know, my predecessor, Vice Mayor Suja Lowenthal, said to me, it's the loneliest job you will ever have. And it's true.
Yeah.
You know, you're surrounded by people, and it's great to be here with you guys.
Yeah.
But it's still lonely.
Yeah.
You know, because it's a constant debate. And so I made some mistakes in the past, and I've tried to, you know, rectify those changes. But I've also tried to lead with integrity, and I believe that I have done that. And so I know that night of June 3rd was a personal night.
Yeah.
You know, that had nothing to do with city time or anything else. My relationship with my previous chief of staff is a personal relationship.
Right.
My daughter and my husband deserve to have some peace as well. You know, and I know that there have been other people in elected office in Long Beach that have had things happen.
Right.
And not one of them has had the media pressure like I have.
Yes,
You
I
know?
know that. Right.
Yeah, I mean, my seat, you go back. Two people before my seat had issues too.
I know, and I know all about those. That's why I'm like, let me stay away from politics in Long Beach altogether.
Something about the second district, I don't know.
It's the water.
For those that want to run for this seat, beware. No, but I will say, you know, it's been tough. But it's also been rewarding and fulfilling that I've been surrounded by so many people that support me and that see that not once did I step out of my role of governing and trying to fight for the residents. You know, and while sometimes we make poor choices and we try to rectify those choices, that I've still done more in my first year in office than a lot of folks. In my very first year,
absolutely,
I sponsored 11 agenda items. I co-sponsored 19 of them. I doubled constituent services, graffiti removal, potholes. Like, you can run down the list.
Yeah.
But I'm a fierce woman. That's the most progressive person that's ever been on city council.
I have to agree on that.
And
agree.
A week doesn't go by that I don't hear the word recall, whether it's from somebody that ran against me before, or whether it's from the hotel industry or the chamber. You know, and that is because I gave them a little TMZ to run with. And now it's not the TMZ part that makes them want to recall me. It's the fact that I'm a progressive advocate that fights for women and people of color in the highest poverty areas in the city and does it without blinking.
Right.
You know, and so...
Well, I don't know about that.
Is that
because
somebody that doesn't agree with you trying to hold it over your head, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and that happens.
Well, you know, it does happen. And, okay, let me give you an example.
Give me an example.
Okay, so this guy over here,
This guy.
I got enough.
Let me tell you. Let me tell you. This guy.
I got
I'm
enough.
gonna get off here for. You're gonna bring. No.
TMZ right now.
No. This one right here. Okay, he used to come and visit me in his hoopty.
Yeah, I had a hoopty. Oh, it's 1988, man. Seats
Yes, when it rained, it leaked through the ceiling. Okay, that's.
She didn't complain though.
Radio would fall out every time I prayed.
So what he used to do, he used to actually drive down the 710 freeway. And he called himself the Long Beach Freeway Man.
That's
He
it.
even
Break,
had
break.
he used to have a CB radio or whatever.
Long Beach Freeway Man. That's what I'm called.
And so he used to drive down 710 freeway, and every single time he would get off the freeway 6th Street. Now you tell me this is the truth. Look.
I'll tell you if it's true.
Okay. He used to get stopped by the police every single time. One way or another, you would get stopped and like, oh, I got stopped by the police again coming off the freeway. Yeah. Is that true?
Yeah.
Is this true, right?
Yeah.
So he has like a really nice relationship with the 710 freeway.
Yeah.
You found the go around. Huh?
And like, he was asking me, you go ahead and ask the question that you asked me.
Well, I don't remember what you're talking about.
Okay, so he was reading all of these articles because he didn't know like what was going on, and he's like, "Why the 710 of all freeways?"
Oh yeah.
Come on, don't pull off on the 710 freeway.
I read it, and I was like, "That's her personal business." I really did. Like, I mean, really, come on, man.
Yeah.
It's not affecting anyone's lives, man. So what? My thing is all these people weighing in, talking to their different opinions and this and that, and what they do or whatever. Get out of here.
Well,
Haters
you know,
gonna
but the haters are going to hate. But
Haters
but there's some real serious things that, like in the recall campaign, that they brought up.
But you know what? Let me give you the rundown. So that night, was I drunk driving?
Yeah.
No, I was not. Right? Did I get in a situation that I would prefer not to be in?
Right.
Yeah. Did I do the safe thing and stop my car? Yes, I did.
You did.
And so those are the things that when people say she got pulled over, I didn't get pulled over. I was already stopped.
Right.
Trying
17.
to do the safe thing. Right. Did I get VIP treatment? I don't know if you guys have heard my comments in public.
No,
but
we haven't.
I have been the one advocate, and I'm going to get my hand slapped real big for saying it publicly, but from the time that I was running on the campaign, PD didn't support me. The time I got elected, before I sat in, every time I make a comment on social media about Black Lives Matter, or I spoke at the Black Lives Matter thing before I got elected, I repost something. Whenever we hired 7 new police officers to do trainings, I did a big email blast that said,
Thank you for saying that.
thank you for hiring 7 more PDs to do training, because our PD needs training.
Right.
Every time I make these comments, I get my hand slapped for making these comments. I think our officers do a job that is terrifying, that risks their lives, and I thank them for them. They should get paid well. They should have a good pension. But we need to face the facts that we have a high rate of police shootings and police issues, and I'm okay with talking about it.
Right.
The rest of my colleagues struggle a little bit with that, and that's politics, and I'm okay with that, and I don't judge any of them for that.
Of course, yeah.
But when the comment came out that I received VIP treatment,
I mean,
I am the last one that's going to receive VIP treatment.
I mean, I think the VIP treatment, I don't think you know, Luke, but they were saying that they waited like an hour and a half.
I didn't have any water. As soon as our Long Beach PD got there, I had to walk the line. I had to do the nose thing.
So you didn't wait an hour and a half? No.
And that
so
was
that was
I said I wished that we did have police cameras, and I've said it publicly. I wish all our officers had police cameras so that you could see. It would be humiliating for my constituents to see me doing the test.
mean, this is the story that they're painting, Luke. Like, she waited an hour and a half, and I'm like, that wouldn't happen. You would be in jail, right?
They took some time. I mean, they took some time to get their officers there. Or what do we do? Because we got but I did not receive VIP. I do not feel. And now I have never been pulled over before.
Right.
So I don't know what regular treatment looks like. But I didn't ask for VIP treatment, and I am not the
Well,
one
it was
that
the highway
give it to.
patrol.
So what's regular treatment? What's regular treatment, Luke? Let's give her some real regular treatment and what it is.
Was it Highway Patrol or the Long Beach Police?
Highway Patrol stopped while we were there, and then they called Long Beach PD.
Oh, okay.
So they called. Wait, Highway called, and then Long Beach PD called. Why was Long Beach
Highway
PD
Patrol
called?
was there, and then they called Long Beach PD.
Because of you, or because it was you?
Yeah.
So that could be the preferential treatment.
CHP usually handle all.
I don't know. You know what? It's behind us. You know, and that this is the first time in weeks since I've talked about that night. I gotta be honest.
I'm glad that you're comfortable with us because we want to be able to like at least. You know, I wouldn't be doing my job to ask, but and I'm glad that you're able to be candid with us. But for them, okay, let me just put this out there. Councilperson Pearce has said that she did not wait an hour to do her field test. That's not preferential treatment. Now, she also has said that they called the Long Beach PD, and you don't know what the reason for that other than it was you.
I was told when I became an elected, if you get pulled over, you know, you need to make sure that people know that it's you.
Okay.
And so when I wasn't pulled over, I was stopped, and I said, you just, you know, I'm not asking for treatment or anything. You just need to know, you know, my name is Jeannine Pearce, and I'm an elected in the city.
Got it.
I did not ask for preferential treatment, but that is the standard that I was told that I should do.
I see.
And I was asking...
This is city managers or lawyers
but isn't that
like that?
When you tell
I want to become a council person.
No. But seriously, guys,
when you tell
the situation was not a situation of drunk driving. It was an odd situation where my car was stopped in the middle of the road.
Oh, it was in the middle? I thought it was on the side. Okay, I'm getting it from you. So
okay, and it's a night that I really don't want. I really don't want to relive, and I don't want to get in. You know, too far down the rabbit hole because stuff hasn't finalized, and that was my commitment to PD and everybody that we've just let their police reports come out.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for PD that night, you know, and I'm thankful for those that have supported everybody that's been through this experience.
Yes.
From my staff to my previous staff, it's been hell.
Yeah.
You know, and the hardest part, I think, was a couple of months where people felt like they could treat us all a little bit differently because of a personal situation that happened to me.
Sure.
And I'm thankful now that my colleagues and everybody else feels like, you know, we've put this behind us. And I think a lot of my residents have put it behind us. And we hope that everybody else can continue to put it behind us so that we can continue to govern and do the things that we wanted to do.
Oh, you put it behind me. I already put it behind you already.
No, I mean, honestly, thank you for that because
I got work to do.
You got work. You got work to do.
I got work to do.
And let me tell you, let me be perfectly clear. There was a newspaper that put out a poll that was a newspaper that was actually siding with the recall campaign, and they put out a poll: should Jeannine Pearce be recalled? And the majority said no.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is coming from a newspaper that wanted to recall her. So, I mean, the city is already spoken. So, and, you know.
I've been on them polls before. I ain't.
Yeah.
I've been in that situation before.
Yeah.
The thing is that I'm out there every day. My staff is out there every day. We're knocking on doors.
As long as they see your face every day, you are.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you know, I just know that the city needed to know, and at least to hear from you.
Yeah.
And you chose us to allow the city to hear from you. But I will say now, we're going to change subjects, but how did you come up? Woo!
I told you she's a talker.
She good.
Jubilee.
Jubilee.
Did you get that name from the X-Men?
You know what? I did not. Maybe it was deep in my mind somewhere. Yeah, she was supposed to be named Amelia the whole time.
Oh, okay.
And then I passed my due date and no progress. And so we said, well, let's, make sure we spend the time coming up with names. And we'd drive around. We'd be like, Sky, Crayola. And then I said Jubilee, and my face just lit up. And the biggest smile. And I just said,
what were we talking about?
My daughter.
Oh, your daughter.
My daughter's name is Jubilee.
Okay.
And so I just said I want to smile every time I think about my daughter.
I just love that name, Jubilee. and the thing about it is, you also are a Star Wars fan, which my whole house
That's
or
on my
nothing.
Birthday.
Yeah,
Who's film with me.
Okay, so can we just rent out a whole theater and like have like
it.
and invite people from the city to come and celebrate with you?
Yes.
That'd be great.
Let's do it.
But
She's fierce. So
yeah, no, your daughter is like my cheeky, like no holds barred,
Yeah.
and tells it like it is.
She does.
Yeah, and how is she handling it, or do you keep a lot of this the city life away from her?
No, I don't keep the city life away from her. I mean, when my June 3rd instance happened, I had a very small handful of people that said, "Are you going to resign?" And my husband included. I think you need to resign, and I said, I can't do that. I don't feel like I've done something wrong. And it was literally like 3 people that said it, so don't get any crazy ideas.
Right.
Literally like 3 people. And I said, I'll think about it. And I thought about it, and I feel like I'm elected to govern for the people.
Sure.
And that there isn't somebody else right now that's in that position in my district. And I feel like being a leader for my daughter is her watching me go through struggle and not give up. We're going to look back on this year. It's going to be some hard talks with my girl when she's older. I'm not going to lie.
Right.
But it's the right thing to do to make sure that, people fought to get me elected and to stay.
Right.
I have very honest conversations with my daughter.
Right.
And my husband, as we're going through, our separate ways, we have very honest conversations with her. But I bring her to events whenever I don't have childcare, and I talk to her about things, and we talk about police officers when we see them, and we talk about as much as we can.
Yeah.
And if I'm sad one day after council, I talk to her, I'm like, well, I had a rough day at council, or today was a great day. She's extremely proud of me.
That's great.
Which is really fun because she'll tell her friends at school, my mommy's a city council member. So cute.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, but I do absolutely 100%. I follow you on Facebook. I see all the pictures, and I think what you're doing for your daughter is wonderful.
Thank you.
And she's gonna remember these years and how strong mommy was, and
Yes.
and then also it's a moment of reflection and learning. So what have you learned through this process? Being just a little over a year through this process, what have you learned in this time?
To do what my gut tells me. And that I never was the popular kid in school. Don't try to be the popular kid at City Hall. And that's for real. I was a punk rock kid that some of the punk kids liked, some of them didn't, and I got myself to a place as a youngster that said, I don't really care. I'm gonna lead with my heart. I'm gonna do what makes me feel like I'm doing the right thing. Right. And it's hard because there are structures in place, and there's people that say, well, you got to do it this way. I don't have to do it that way. Right. I want to make sure that I represent my residents, and that means that sometimes it's doing tough things that it's not what everybody likes in the bureaucratic system. And it's been hard, because you want to be able to play politics so you can get things passed, like Claudia's Law. Yes. And so there's the challenge of balancing politics with your values and knowing I like bringing everybody to the table and coming up with a middle ground. Right. And that's why process is so important to me. And sometimes this bureaucracy is not set up that way. Right. So my lessons are go a little bit slower, trust my instincts. If I feel like I need more time, take more time. Right. And trust those that stand by your side. I've got some great colleagues, Vice Mayor Richardson, Lena Gonzalez, that, we work really closely together, Roberto, and we talk things through. And it's like sometimes we don't always agree, and we get to have that back and forth. And if you always agree, it's something wrong. There's something wrong. So I've learned that early. Myself and speaking up quickly if I have a concern. Right. And self-care. Oh, self-care. 100%. Self-care. Yes. You guys might be noticing on my Facebook, I go out of town every other weekend. Yes, you do. You do. I did my big cleanup this past Saturday, which was awesome. Hopped in the car. Went to Santa Barbara. Which I'm jealous of this Barrington Levy at Beach. I'm really upset about that because I won't be here. So that was me and Lena and Rex sitting down after council, and he's like, "Oh, I'm looking at these couple of guys and da da da," and he mentioned him. And Councilmember Gonzalez was like, "Oh my God!" I was like, "Yes, awesome!" And he was like, "Seriously?" Because we were, and we're like, "We're in." Let us pay
and
you
the
to
Far
bring 'em
Side
in.
is coming.
Far
Jeez.
Side's classic.
Yeah. So, I mean, we see what's going on. We see the activity.
Yeah.
We wish you the best of luck. And are you planning to run again?
Are you planning to run again? I have a job to do, and
Right.
my intention is to stay until I feel like I'm no longer able to do that job. And I
Right.
feel on fire, and like we're rocking 7 years of this. So,
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, there's one more. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But because I like to write things down, but I like to be off the cuff too.
I do too. I
And
didn't think anything.
I know. And then you came by yourself in the truck. You were like, "I'm here, rolling up all by yourself." And I thought there was going to be this crew, and you came by yourself, which is cool as I don't know what. But what I will say, did you on National Come Out Day come out?
As bi? Mm-hmm. I think I did. Yeah.
You did.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
refreshing, right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, yes, I came out as bisexual on National Coming Out Day, and it was refreshing for me to do that. I think there's some people in the community that know.
Yeah.
And it honestly was one of the things that during the campaign, one of my people that was running against me would say, "I'm the only publicly out person," you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I was, married and wanted to do respect to my husband by not coming out as bi. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, you just don't understand like how important that is for the community. I'm truly an advocate for those who are part of the LGBTQIA communities.
Nice job.
And for you to do that in such a public way.
What day was this?
Speaks volumes to
National Coming Out Day.
National Coming Out 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I missed that day?
You did.
You ready to come out?
I would have knew about it, would have planned a little bit.
Yes, he's been trying for years. Wait, did I make you? Did I out you? No. Well, is there anything else you want to ask, Luke? Since I just sat up here and talked to.
I just want to say, man, I'm glad that you came by. Glad to meet you. The forum is always open on this show. If you got anything going on, anything you're trying to push,
Thank you.
Let us know. Oh, and there's a phone call.
There's a phone call.
You ready? You want to take a phone call?
Okay.
We'll take one phone call because we're like running over time. Here we go. One phone call.
KLBC, you're on with the councilwoman, Jeannine Pearce. Councilperson, Jeannine Pearce.
Councilperson.
You there?
Hey, what's going on? This is Lorenzo. I was just calling in to talk to Luke and the councilperson. How you doing?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Good. Did you have a question for Councilperson Pearce?
Yeah, I just wanted to find out what she was doing to bring, everyone together, in the community, in terms of, marches and organization. What are some of the things that she was doing, locally, for the community? I joined in a little late, and I just wanted to call in.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
You got something you planning or? Okay, go ahead. You can.
That's okay. That's okay. Thanks for the question. I come from grassroots organizing, and so always working with as many grassroots organizations as possible, whether it's on land use element, immigration, minimum wage, paid sick days. My office is always there to support people finding an avenue to have their voice heard. So I try to attend as many public actions as I can, but also B, while we have a public presence so that folks know where Long Beach stands on a lot of these issues, it's the table where we sit down and say, all right, what are the issues that matter most to us? And so in the past, the table that I've helped create is Long Beach Rising, which has a big group of, I think, about 12, 14 different groups that have different interests, everything from dealing with making sure when people come out of prison that we are getting them jobs and education as quickly as possible, to the environment and utilizing Long Beach Rising as a place where we're able to flush out policy ideas is really important. So if there's an issue that's important to you, you can always contact my office and we'll make sure we get you plugged in. Or if you have something that you're doing and I can plug in, I would love to have that discussion as well.
Great.
I'm not doing anything but raising 2 kids. Though.
Hey, man, that is a labor of love right there.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, let's put out there.
All right, thanks for calling, man.
Thank you for calling.
All right.
Thank you.
Let's put out there how people can get in contact with you, and because I do recommend to follow all the council members on Facebook, because they're all active in their different districts. But definitely go to Facebook and look up Jeannine Pearce. She has an active profile page, and she's really working in the community. So what is it? Give all the areas where people can find you.
Definitely. Facebook is one of those hit or miss for me. I'm just going to be honest. I get so many. I think I've like 30 new friend requests last week. So try to follow the council member Jeannine Pearce page. District 2 at longbeach.gov is an account that my whole office looks at. Jeannine.Pearce at longbeach.gov. And then our office number is 562-570-2222.
That's so easy.
And we will, we've got some exciting stuff coming up, everything from a dog park opening to our State of the District. We're doing a turkey giveaway in November. We've got a lot of stuff coming up in these next 2 months. So we also ask you to go to JeanninePearce.com and sign up for our newsletter. And that way you can find out some volunteer opportunities or maybe see something that you'd like to partner with us on.
Well, excellent. Thank you so much again. Wow. You can breathe now. You can get some snacks in the hallway. We're going to take a break, but thank you again for coming through and just being so transparent and being candid with us. We really do appreciate you.
Absolutely. I know I'll hear it from some folks that I love it, and I don't know how to, how else
be
to
another way.
So I really appreciate you guys inviting me on.
Yeah, and give our love to Jubilee too.
We will, and your kiddos too.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
All right, look like we got us a new friend now. KLBC.org, listen to the Luc and Cammie Show. We'll be right back after these quick ones.